So welcome back to Aerospectrum. Today we are going to learn about determination of thermal conductivity of a rod using the Searles method. So this is one important heat practical that we are going to learn today. So let's get started with the apparatus we would require for this experiment. So first of all you would require all these apparatus. This is called the boiler, the burner, the tripod, and you will need the steam chamber, and you will need these two tubes, this tube and this tube, and you will need a meter ruler, a vernier caliper, and a stopwatch. Okay, and we will need this water vessel. We will need a good heat insulator to cover this. This is covered by a good heat insulator, and we will need this special arrangement. This is called uh, constant pressure. This is called constant pressure. We will also need this rubber tube, and we will need a way that the water can be supplied to this apparatus. So these are all the things that you will need to continue this experiment. So let's get started on how this process works. So this process works like when the heat is produced for this boiler, and the steam travels from this point, and this rod gets heated up. So why do we have this tube A? That is one problem you might have. The reason we have the tube A is because we can maintain the atmospheric pressure and heat the water at 100 degrees Celsius. And we can heat the water at 100 degrees Celsius by maintaining the atmospheric pressure within the system using this tube A. And if we have this tube B, we can supply the steam from the boiler for the steam chamber. Please remember that in this point the tube B is not touching the water, whereas tube A should always touch the water. So why do we produce steam from this point and not from this point? We can produce steam from this point as well. No, because that won't work, because density of this steam is very low. Therefore it will try to have an upward motion. To avoid this upward motion, we can produce steam from this point. When we produce steam at this point, the steam might get trapped and the condensed water might come out. The condensed water will not be useful for this experiment. All we need is the steam, so that we can heat this end W. Okay, then we can heat the end W of this metal rod. Okay, and so therefore that's the reason we use the tube B to supply steam from this point. So from now that we know that we have a steam chamber, and now let's come to the rod. So now we have this thermometers T1 and T2. So we should always maintain a layer of mercury in these holes, so that we can have a good thermal conductivity between these bulbs of the thermometer and the rod. Okay, and we measure this the distance between T1 and T2 thermometers by using a meter ruler, whereas the diameter of this rod is measured using the vernier caliper. Okay, so because we need the area of this part. So that's about it. We need the cross-sectional area of this rod. Okay, and next thing what we got to consider is that we got to have thermometers T3 and T4. We got to have thermometers T3 and T4 at these points. So we got to have an efficient water supply, which can be controlled. How are we going to control this water supply is that if we adjust this constant pressure up and down, we can adjust the pressure, the water pressure existing, and to have an efficient water flow. So why do we have water flow from this point? Why do we have the water vessel at this point? That's one problem. Because when water is supplied from this point, as it travels through, it will gain heat. It will be able to conduct heat because of this copper tube. This tube is a copper tube, so therefore it will be a good heat conductor for this water to be heated. So when the water is heated up to a specific level, it will be good to have, it will be good, and we can have a good experiment running. So we have this rod right here, so that's what we wanted to know. So I'll explain to you what's happening in this apparatus. Let's get on with the calculations. So now as we heat the system using this steam, all of these thermometers will begin to heat up, will begin to show a reading. So at a constant temperature, they will be in steady state. How do you identify this? Well, as we produce heat from this point at a certain period, we will be able to obtain the readings of these thermometers in a constant rate, at a constant temperature. So that basically means that the temperature won't exceed that point. That's known as steady state, when all thermometers have reached a specific temperature. But remember, these temperatures are not the same. These temperatures are not the same. They differ from each point, because heat in this point is higher. This is a little higher. This is the most lowest point where heat exists. So therefore, we have 4 thermometers in this experiment needed. So therefore, let's get on with the calculation. So this is how you do the calculations. So now we start the stopwatch. We start the stopwatch and measure for a specific time interval of the water flowing through this arrangement, the constant pressure. Okay, and now we are going to apply the equation mc theta. We are going to apply the equation mc theta. M is the mass of water for the specific time period. After the specific time period is over, we stop the water flow. We stop the water from coming to this place. Water flows through this rubber tube, right? So mass of water, CW. What is CW? That is specific heat capacity. Specific heat capacity has the units of joules, M minus 1 C minus 1. That is the unit of specific heat capacity. This can also be written like this, kg, right? And then we can have the difference of temperature at this point. So what will have the most temperature here? What will have the most temperature? T3 or T4 thermometers? T3 will have the greater temperature, so therefore we will subtract T3 from T4. And we said that we consider specific time period. We consider a specific time period for this. So therefore we substitute the specific time period T. This is a total heat transferred per this given time. Total amount of heat transferred from this water flow for this given time in this water vessel. Okay, so then we have this equation. Let's mark it as equation A that you will need it. So now what you got to consider is that you got to measure the area of this cross section of this metal rod. How are you going to do this? Using a vernier caliper, you can measure it. You can measure it like this. Normally it's pi r squared, right? Area of the rod. Area of cross section of the rod, pi d squared by 4. And now you got to consider another equation. It's this. So this is going to be Q, and we can obtain another equation for Q like this. This is the coefficient of thermal conductivity. So that's what K is, what the constant what we are going to find. So area is given, and then we have the temperature gradient. So the temperature gradient is T1 minus the temperature of T2. So T1 minus T2. T1 minus T2. Okay. Divide this by this length. T1 and T2 divide the length d. We took the diameter of this and we marked it as d square, right? We marked it as d square. Q is equals to k by d squared by 4 theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by d. So from this point you can understand that okay. So now we are going to make these two equal. Q is equals to Q, right? This total energy transfer. So now we are going to say that K by d squared by 4 theta 1 minus theta 2 over d is equals to mw cw theta 3 minus theta 4 divided by d. So now K mw cw theta 3 minus theta 4 times this 4d times 4d meters over theta 2 minus theta 1 minus theta 2, and next what we are going to consider is the pi d squared. So this is the equation that you will be able to obtain in order that you can get this answer for K, the thermal conductivity of this metal rod. So now you might get a question like this: why can't we measure the thermal conductivity? Why can't we measure thermal conductivity of a rod that has low thermal conductivity? That's because we can't measure that. We can't actually measure the rods with a low thermal conductivity. Basically, we need a high thermal conductivity to have the best results. So, if you have a doubt like this, K, what are the units of K? These are the units of K. W, M minus 1, K minus 1. K has these units. And these are the units of specific heat capacity of water. So I hope you understood what I taught you in this video. And if you have any comments or doubts, you can mark them in the comment section below. I'm reading them all the time. So I hope you have a nice day and I hope you understood. Thank you and have a nice day.